איך אתה בטיסי תחזור לכיתה. פעם שנייה, פעם שלישית, אומר לה, תשמע, לא עושה לך מכות. דבר איתך יפה. תקום, תלך לזה. זה הייתה לך סתירה, אומרת, תתן לי סתירה, אני אקח, הלך למשטרה. כאילו נתן לו סתירה, הלך למשטרה. הלך למשטרה, ואחרי הסיפור.
It's cookies. Thank you.
I ate you, and delicious. Cholesterol free.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Yeah, we have someone from Florida here.
David. Well, you listen every year.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem. Davis. I'm not sure if someone's listening by the phone.
Davis?
Okay, thank you, everyone. Welcome. We're going to continue our discussion of Dinim on Erev Shabbos, Dinim on Shabbos of putting back
the
pots to the fire.
Right.
Reish Nun and Gimel. Okay. Baruch Hashem. Now we're holding page Kuf Yud Ches.
Kuf Yud Ches.
Page Kuf Yud Ches. Baruch Atah Shakil Midbari. Now we're holding Siftaz Vav. Let's recap what we spoke the previous shiurim. Koydem Kol, we learned that there's an Isser Shehiyah on Erev Shabbos. You're not allowed to be Masheh Kededa on the fire Erev Shabbos unless you have certain conditions. Reason being because Chazal were Choyshe Shema Yichata Begecholim, maybe you will stir the cold on Shabbos and you will come to the Isser Havara and Pasli Bishul, the food is not fully cooked. So although min ha-Torah, there's no problem to start a malacha at a Shabbos and have it finish on Shabbos. The Rabbanan Chachamim were concerned of this chashash. Therefore they said, you must have one of these three conditions on Erev Shabbos to leave a pot on the fire. Either it's Meichel ben Dursai, it has already been cooked to the shear Meichel Dursai, then you're allowed to leave it there at a Shabbos. When it hits Shkia, it's already Meichel Dursai. Thank you. And the shear Meichel Dursai, we said there's a machlokes between the Shoinim, Rambam and Rashi. Rambam holds it's Chatzi B'Shulei, the Rashi holds it's Shlish B'Shulei, a third cooked. Even though, Alter Rebbe explains, even though normally when it comes to Isser the Rabbanan, we would go the Kula, smaller shear, Shlish B'Shulei, only be required to be cooked a third cooked before Shabbos. Well, the mice since Shabbos is a Chomer Isser, or Machmer, even by the Rabbanans, and we require Chatzi B'Shulei. However, it's only L'Chatchila, but for the Yevid or B'Shat Tzchak, one is allowed to put it up at a Shabbos, even if it's only Shlish B'Shulei. That's one way you're allowed to leave it at a Shabbos. A second way, independent heter, is if you put up a blech. If you put up a blech, it doesn't matter whether the food is cooked or not cooked. It doesn't make a difference. You have a blech. We spoke in the times of Chazal, blech meant that they did either grufa or ketuma. They shoveled out the coals or they covered it with a layer of ashes. The third heter, which is not so common and as practical, was that if you're dealing with raw meat and you put it up right before Shkia, so it does not have any time to cook before Shabbos, it's still raw when Shkia arrives, you're allowed to leave it on the fire at a Shabbos. We explained that Poiskes Manenu say that only applies to slow cookers today. But on regular fires, the meat will be ready can be ready for Sunnah Salayla, and there is a chash and yichata, maybe you will chata the gecholim to have it ready earlier. So that is all regarding shehiyah. Regarding chazara means on Shabbos itself, if you took a pot off the fire, you want to return it to the fire, there is certain halachis when you're allowed to do that. What's the reason for these conditions, for these tunoi chazara, we call conditions of chazara? The reason behind most of these conditions is not because of Shem Yichata, because of Nira Kimavashal. Nira Kimavashal means it seems like you're cooking. You're getting comfortable with the fire, putting things on the fire. Chazal didn't want you feeling comfortable putting things on the fire. They said only if you put it on b'derech chazara, in a manner that's called chazara, with the certain conditions, then you're allowed to return it back to the fire on Shabbos. If you don't have these conditions, it means it's not a chazara anymore. You're mafsik, the hemsheichius, the continuity, and it's as if this pot was not on the fire, and now you're putting it on the fire l'chatchil on Shabbos. So even though the pot's fully cooked, it's called nira kimavashal. You're not allowed to put something on the fire l'chatchil on Shabbos without the tanoi chazara.
Even if they had liquid inside?
Yeah.
Even with liquid?
Yeah. Oh, so only way you're allowed, what are the tanoi chazara? Namely, we said you have to take it off with daiti l'achzira. You have a mind to put the pot back. Number two, it's still in your hand, you're still holding onto the pot. You didn't put it down. Even we explained, even if you put it onto the counter and you held your hand on it, it's also okay. Number three, you can't flip the food into another pot and put the new pot on the fire. You have to keep the food in the original pot. Like let's say the challah was burning. You don't want the food on the bottom, it's burnt part. You want to flip it to a new pot and put it back, that's a problem. You have to keep it in the original pot. Those are the tanoi chazara if you want to put something on the fire.
We didn't say for how long, but let's say you took it up from the pot, in the fire, you put it in the sink, you're holding it in your hand, and you take out how long? 1 minute, 5 minutes?
As long as it's still warm. As long as it's warm.
Warm enough that
you'll eat it. Warm enough to eat. If it's cold and you don't want to eat it anymore, it's a problem. If it's roi lechel machmas chamimusay, you could still return it. Usually it stays hot for a long time, but unless it's a tiny pot, tiny dish. Yeah.
What happened over here?
Question over here is, how do you add water to the cholent? The cholent is burning sometimes. Sometimes you look inside out of Shabbos in the morning, you're getting worried that cholent's going to burn. Right. You need to add water. This happens a lot, right? Every Shabbos morning we take a look, we peek inside. Everything okay over there? We make sure, mashlomcha. You got to check out what's going on. So the way how we deal with that is, since taking water into a cup, hot water into a cup, and pouring it into the shalom pack could be a problem. Why? This hot water is now in a new keli. You're not allowed to remove water, put water on the fire in a new keli, second keli. So the best way to go about doing this is you have to bring one to the other. One has to be brought to the other. You bring either the shalom pat to the chaynik or the chaynik to the shalom pat, and you pour directly in. So then it's klidishin to klidishin.
And also it's
not because of a bishul problem. The reason for this is because of chazara, because the Gemara explains that you're not allowed to be mefani meicham and meicham acher. It has to be in the original meicham. Over here, you're just taking the hot water from the chaynik and putting it to the klidishin shalom. So practically speaking, nowadays most times our chaynik is plugged in. Sometimes people leave a something on top of the blech to have like a glass, teapot. But usually today we have something plugged in, an urn plugged into the wall. So you're not going to be able to unplug it. So what we do is you take your cholent out, you bring it over to the urn, and you put some hot water in to make sure that it doesn't burn.
It had to be hot water, not
now your urn is flacious.
Right, hot water. Now your urn is flacious. Good question. So what you have to do is, when you open the cholent pot, steam comes out. Right. You don't want that hot steam hitting the spigot, because then making it flacious, you won't be able to have milchige coffee and tea. You can have tea and coffee, but it won't make you flacious, but you can't have together with milch.
That's what you have to do.
So what you do is, you open it up, you let the steam, give it a minute for the steam to go out, and then you take it over. You hold it a little lower, so it shouldn't, by the time the steam reaches the spigot, it's not yatzah ladisbay. Even if it's hot, it's not yatzah ladisbay. Then you're not making a flacious.
We have a problem here, because the pot is this pot. How we can carry the pot to the urn?
He doesn't carry it. He puts enough water in.
He never has problems, does he?
Here? No, Baruch Hashem, we never had the two.
This depends if you make more of a watery cholent or not. If you make a watery cholent, if you make a watery cholent, you don't have a problem. But if you don't put a lot of water in,
Better water because so what? You don't need the water.
depends what people like. So it is important to mention that the Mishabruda and this thing has a different shita. He's more lenient. However, it's not clear as to what the Mishabruda meant. So a lot of discussions, a lot of ink poured on the Mishabruda. It's a shad hashbiyan on the bottom, and he doesn't. He said that he deleted the whole mention of the discussion of this isser because, anyways, there are very shittas. What does it mean pinal meichel lameicham? What does it mean putting into another keli? And some people are matter another keli. A lot of people have scratched their heads to try to understand what the Mishnah Brent, what Shlomo Zalman Auerbach writes about it. Others write about it. They don't understand what the Mishnah meant. Shlomo Zalman says that maybe he meant this. L'payel, some in the Welt have a minig to rely on this Mishnah Brura based on their understanding of Mishnah Brura. Say you can take a teacup, a cup, and a half cup, and take water from the thing and a cliche and you pour it into that shell.
I can make your teeth. Okay.
Others say no, you can't because that's not really what the Mishnah Brura meant. It's not clear what the Mishnah Brura meant. So definitely other poskim, the Magen Avram, the Alter Rebbe, Tosfos, other poskim, all held clearly you can't. Mishnah Brura is not so clear. So even I saw, even really very literature poskim that always follow the Mishnah Brura. So I'm saying this issue, like I think Ramosha says, he says this issue you should look at not follow the Mishnah Brura because we don't really understand what he's saying. Hard to understand what he's saying. Something's missing here. I think Lamitas Malachot's book, the English Lamitas of David Ribyat, he also like but you will see a lot of times girls in Beis Yaakov are taught you can take a hot cup and move in between. So people will do it, and that's they have a reason why they're doing it. They're based on an understanding of the Mishnah Brura. They will do it we don't do it in Chabad. We take one to the other directly from the Klidish to the Klidish.
Also,
I had a story.
They make coffee. They put the coffee and go and put the water out straight. We don't do it. Right? We put a cup,
Hot water.
another cup, and then put the coffee.
They pour the hot water on the coffee.
Straight.
Right.
They say it's better to put the coffee first. I'm always confused with this.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why do they say it, you know?
This is
And we do mamash perhaps. We do
my
klisheni,
parents do the opposite.
then-
My wife
and then
does.
put the
Says
coffee.
put the coffee first.
Interesting. Well, the reason why that is because the Mishnah Brura went with like the Alter Rebbe did in his Shulchan Aruch, and then his Siddur he changed. The shaila is how do you treat dry particles that will dissolve when you pour hot water in them. So do you treat it like a liquid, which is more chamer? Do you treat it like a davar yavish, like a lach yavish? Right now it's yavish, it's dry. But as soon as I'm going to put hot water, it's going to dissolve and become a liquid. How do we treat it? Machlekes haposkim, Magen Avram, and Taz, and Shulchan Aruch. Magen Avram is makel to treat it like a yavish. So ein b'shach bishul davar yavish has been already cooked because the instant coffees have been cooked already, roasted and cooked. And however, the Taz holds that no, yavish and imayach, it's called yavish and imayach. Yavish dissolves, it's like a lach. It's a cold lach. Yesh b'shach bishul davar lach, which is cold. This is the machlekes. Alter Rebbe and the Shulchan Aruch passing like the Magen Avram, and most of the time the Shulchan Aruch he went with the Magen Avram over the Taz. Though sometimes he did go with the Taz, most of the time he went with the Magen Avram. In the Siddur, he did change a few halachas he put into the Siddur, and a few Shabbos halachas we have, just a few Shabbos halachas, he changed regarding this one. And he said, Yavish and Imayach is like a lach, and it's a shash chatos, skila, kares, and he was machma like the Taz and the Lavush that were his Einukol, Divin Nechemia the Bravna, who married his Einukol and was a Talmud of the Alter Rebbe, he married his granddaughter. He explains in a tshuva why the Alter Rebbe, how he understands why the Alter Rebbe changed. He said the Magen Avram didn't really, his raya from the Gemara is not a strong raya, and really there's no proof for this in Chazal. Akapanim was he changed. So the Mishnah Brura actually goes a little bit in the middle. Mishnah Brura says regarding this machlekes, in Kli Rishon be machmer, in Kli Sheni it could be mekel. So by the Kli Sheni, that's when the Veld are mekel to put the coffee in the Kli Sheni, Because they say, what's the problem to put in a klisheni? Mishabura says it's fine. In a klirishin, Mishabura says to be machmer to the sheet that says that it's like a lach.
And they call
So I'm not sure why they hold a pouring on
they
it
call
better.
the
To me, it makes
klirishin-
sense that they should put it in the klisheni.
They call it
First.
clearish there.
No, put it later. I don't
After
see
the-
why
after the-
pouring is better. I don't say pouring is better. Ira is closer to the
Right,
klirishin.
right.
It makes sense more that they should put the hot water in a klisheni and then put it. By the way, even according to the Alter Rebbe's Psak, there is mokim to be makel to put coffee into klisheni. The best thing is to put it into klishlishi, but there is mokim to also think that it's possible to the klisheni. This is basically, there's different svaras, but one of the svaras is, it's called Mimanav Shach. If we treat it like a yavish, this coffee, so a davar yavish, it's already cooked, ain't b'shach b'shav davar yavish, it's fine. If we treat it like a lach, the din is that you're allowed to put, Alter Rebbe holds you're allowed to put liquids into a klisheni on Shabbos, no problem with putting in liquids. So if we treat it like a liquid, you're anyways allowed to put it into klisheni. So Mimanav Shach should be okay in a klisheni. Some want to argue that say you can't say this in Mimanav Shach. This is B'tziruf, you could add in to the fact, taking the fact that Alter Rebbe in the Shulchan Aruch was makel like the Magen Avraham. So Magen Avraham, the Shulchan Aruch are makel. And there's other things to add in to play. The Maisa, the Oilam in the Chabad doesn't do that, they'll do Klishlishi. But I'm saying there is a mokim to say that even a Klisheni, it's not a problem.
Tea bag, the tea is just cooked already?
Tea bag is to do
Different
Klishlishi.
story.
Tea bag is
Different
more,
story, right?
it's more chamer than
Right.
cooked.
It's
Tea has not been cooked.
not cooked.
No. The instant coffee has been cooked and roasted. What they do is, I looked at the process. What they do is they first roast the beans. It's beans, coffee beans, right? They roast the beans. After they roast it, they cook it. They put it in water, they cook it. They boil it.
They ground it first, no?
I think they ground it.
And then
Yeah. They
dehydrate.
ground it first, right? And they cook it. And when they cook it, and they filter out all they take away all they somehow freeze dry it or something. They make this into droplets, the little pieces. They're able to somehow do it.
They're going behind this coffee.
It's roasted and it's cooked. So
About this Klishlishi like tea also?
some say afterwards, the way they make the particles, some say there's two processes. They freeze dry it or they heat dry it. So if you heat dry it, now you have another baking afterwards. So like you had a roasting, cooking, and baking. But soft till soft, Alter Rebbe in Shulchan Aruch holds that a yavish and imayach in a siddur, I mean, he held it was like a lach. So it would be also the gamri to put into a klirishin. According to Mishabura, really, be'etzim you could put into a klirishin. Just be machmer, do it in klisheni. Because he goes with the sheet of the Magen Avraham that yavish and imayach is like a yavish. Ein b'shach b'shdav, you just can't put on a fire, the klish on the fire, but off the fire you're allowed to put it. Alter Rebbe for sure would say you're not allowed to do that. In the klisheni, you have this memana shach that you could possibly say. The tea is a bigger shaila, and that's why you find by tea that some people are machmer and they do the tea essence. I don't know.
They do before Shabbos the pure
Right.
teas, and then they take
Right.
the cup.
Some people do that.
They would not take.
Most people are doing klishlishi, but those are doing cliche.
Yes,
Some
they
tea
do.
essence.
No.
The maple?
It's the machmir.
Most of it make it. The old generation wasn't.
Like that.
See, nobody.
You're not making?
I mean,
My wife was.
they always did.
My wife every
I do tea.
Friday.
Before Shabbos.
Most of the oil in the
Put
shul.
cold one.
Yes.
You take a little bit.
Is it amaranth? So it's,
But the guy, he doesn't do it, right? He do it before Shabbos.
yeah, yes, yeah.
No way. They would not take a bag and put it in Shabbos.
No.
Rabbi Marlo is going to Rabbi Shalom. They get so complicated, and he'll have coffee because he's stay open on Friday night. They need to be off, especially for bringing. He had a thermos in his table. He make a coffee with milk before Shabbos. That's all. That's it. No from Klirishan or Klashini or Klashini. Even somebody was invited to his house. He said he didn't let them to take the shkelei marak. How do you call it in English?
The soup
Nuts.
This no, not soup.
croutons.
The kutan. He didn't let them put it in his soup.
I guess he should allow one to guess.
No, the guy says the matzeket is klisheni, you know, the one that we took, and the plate is klishlishi already,
Right.
and the no.
It's good to be machmer.
That's for sure.
When you know Shulchan Aruch like him, you know, you realize it's not so simple.
But somebody can say that.
Even those that make tea essence, but they don't make coffee essence. That's what I'm saying. Because coffee is much more svaris lahakil. Even those that are machmer with tea essence are not machmer to make coffee essence.
That's why the people I see.
They're more makel with coffee. Coffee is much more svaris. It's much because it's cooked and baked. It's much more svaris lahakil.
They don't even know.
Right.
I told people
Makes for Pesach? Before Pesach,
Maybe put the note.
he boils it.
You want to machmer?
Come to the sugar.
Huh?
Machmer on yourself. Don't.
He makes his own.
The sugar can put together with the coffee, or it has to be after? Doesn't make difference, right?
I one time on Shabbos, we used to have a shiur with Rabbi Yoel, and he said, "Make me." He said wants to make him a tea, and he always wanted a tea during the shiur, but he didn't say how to make it. But he told me to make it with tea essence.
Not with the tea bag.
Yeah. He didn't know what the guys did and how they made it for him. He just said that he told me maybe it was even twice. He told me that
And
to make
sometimes
it.
you don't even drink it. The cup is next to him. You keep the shiur and going. You don't even drink.
Yeah, you don't have to drink the
Remember,
tea, but
sometimes you light a cigarette. You hold it. Till the cigarette finish. He didn't even do once. So
The finger smoking
no. He's just so
involved.
in learning that you just don't realize. But he needs something in his hand.
Wow.
For hours.
listen, till he was an old man, he was not always certain where his house was. There's always a shaila, which house is his house? I'm telling you, this would happen by randomly, but Shabbos I would take him home and he would come to his house and he would look up. Mamish would look up and it would have to think,
This is my house?
make the decision like this is a house. I'm telling you,
Wow.
there were times that he started walking up the neighbor's railing. This happened.
By mistake, Poshu.
Yeah, most of the time not. I'm not going to say most of the time it wasn't that way, but there were plenty of times that,
Not because
and I couldn't understand it. He can.
his memory was so good.
When he moved later next to 770, so the first house next to 770 is the library, the Chabad library that's attached to 770 by that underneath the ground and also through that walkway over there. Yeah. But the next house they bought to add to the library, the next house. But meanwhile, they let Bill have the apartment there in the first floor, and so he lived there the last few years of his life. Because it was hard for him to come to 770 from where he lived to walk there. He couldn't do it anymore, so they made a decision to move him. But he would walk home, and there were plenty of times that he would look up over there to the library, and he was like, "Is this it?" It was looking, and I would say, "No, Bioel, it's weiter," So this was very normal. This was not like we didn't. This was just normal around him. This was normal life.
His wife sent him to take out the garbage. And he took the garbage bag and he walked into the cemetery. Once he started thinking about the Seichel or this, I remember once I was downstairs, I will continue learning. And he came to my brother and said, "Which door I came to the cemetery?" He looked at him and said, "Yeah, what's this one?" He said, "No, if I came from there, that means I went to the mikveh already. If I came to this door, I didn't went to the mikveh." It's like 2:00 afternoon already. I want to know how I came in. Because if I came from this door in the corner, I don't know what from the back of the cemetery.
They said a story when I was younger. They used to say a story that he once in early years when he moved, before my times, and he forgot that he moved. So he went back to his old house. So he took out his.
Where he used to live that he moved.
I think he used to live in Eber. I think he used to live on Montgomery, like maybe a house or two over.
Okay.
By Eber's liquor, the liquor.
Okay.
I think it was there. I don't know which house it was. He used to live there. He took out his keys. He was pushing in the door. The people in the house opened the door and they said, "Biel, you moved." Yeah. I know. You don't have to tell me. He was like embarrassed. He said, "Yeah, chveis. He didn't know English and just
wow.
And,
Suppose you're gonna
okay, so Lamaisa, getting back to the halachas here, he didn't know what happened in the kitchen. I can tell you for sure. One time, Mishleich Manis, I used to come to every Purim in Mishleich Manis. It was very quiet by him in the morning. Purim at night, that was a Fabrengen the whole night, but in his house. But the whole morning, the early afternoon was quiet.
The first night.
Second night. And after the Suda was Nimshach. There was always, it was quiet there. So come and so anyways, I come into him and, he's taking this like serious. He's getting a Mishleich Manis, and so like, he goes, his wife is like preparing a Mishleich Manis to give back. Usually Chasha people don't do that, but they were Pashat. So he says, he goes over to the kitchen, he says to her, and she's putting in a Mishleich Manis, Mach zicher as da beis minim. Make sure there's two minim in the Mishleich Manis. Right, but the Mishleich Manis that we have, there's a Shaila beis minim.
We have 10 minutes.
His wife's putting in things into the Mishleich Manis. He doesn't look, he doesn't know. He's telling her the halacha, make sure he wants to be Yaitza. Make sure there's beis minim. He doesn't know what it is, b'chalal. He doesn't know what it is, what it looks like. I would always give him some svarim. So what give him the svarim would be for him. Wife would be the beis.
Wow.
He Pasha didn't know. He wasn't an avodah. He Pasha didn't. He was not begashimis. He never landed in America. He didn't.
Never read a newspaper, never listen to music, never listen to.
Never, but he was.
I'm saying that it was.
He was very musical. He was very talented.
Chabad Nigunim, whoa, such a medayek, whoa. The Zikon is.
When he was younger, they tried a game with him in the Bachram, and
Never.
They did old McDonald with the song. They want to make like a game. That was something wrong. He said something wrong. Yeah, he said something wrong. Something wrong with this. Something wrong with this song. Okay. Anyway, so Rabbi Isai. Okay, so we remember now that the Tanoi Chazar are not here. Most of the Tanoi Chazar are not here because of Shemi Yichata, like by Shehiyah. The Chash changes by Chazara. You know why the Chash changes by Chazara? Because it's already cooked. The whole shaila is at a Shabbos. It's not cooked yet. We're worried that you might be mechata b'gechol maher bishul of the Michael. You can't put something back on a fire if it's not cooked. It has to be fully cooked. So the chod is noch shash Hashem b'yichata. What's the reason why Chazal required these Tanoi Chazara? According to the Alter Rebbe and the Mishnah Berurah, understand that it's because nira kim mevashel. So if you do, what is oida biyada in daita lahachzir help? It's logical. It's not a gzeres hakosif. When you hold on to something and you have mind to return it, I didn't. It's bechlal. I just a hemshich echad. When I put it back, it's not a I'm putting a new nesina, a nesina chadasha.
And that's why I said
I'm just a hemshich. What I did before, I'm just continuing and putting it back.
And that's why I said
it's called chazara. It's not a. But if you mafsik it, you had hesach hadas. Or you had a different pot, a new pot that you flipped into different pots, or you put it down. Now, when you pick it up and put it back on, it doesn't look like chazar anymore. However, you should just know that regarding one of the Tanoi Chazara, the Alter Rebbe does hold that this is because of Shemi Yichata. Like by Shia. Which one is that? It's not really a Tanoi Chazara, but it's that you have to have a blech. And when it comes to Shehiyah, you put something out of Shabbos, you don't have to have a blech. You could use Meicha Basoi, or blech, or Basar Chai. Comes to on Shabbos to be Machzer Kedera, you have to have a blech. In times of Chazal, that was Grufa or Ketum. You had to do that. Otherwise, you cannot return it back to the fire. By the way, today's days, you can even do that on Shabbos itself, put a blech on. The blech is not muksa. You can put it back, you can put it on Shabbos. Those days, Grufa Ketum means shoveling out the coals and putting dash on. That's only something you could do out of Shabbos.
Yeah.
So if you didn't do it out of Shabbos, you can't make Chazara, you're finished. You lost. Shehiyah, you were allowed to do was Meichin Desai, but if you were not going for Katam on Erev Shabbos, you lost your chance to do Chazara on Shabbos. It's a Tanai Mukhrach, you must have this. What's the reason why you have to have it? Machlokes. It's Machlokes Rishonim, but it boils down to halacha that the Alter Rebbe understands that this condition, that it has to be Gara for Katam, or today's days, it has to have a blech, is not because of Neder Kimavashal Chatkum. It's in order to deal with the Chash Hashem Yichat. You can ask, what Shem Yichat is over here? It's already fully cooked. What's the Chash Shem Yichat? Says Alter Rebbe. And this is based on Rishonim. Since you are coming back to the fire, why are you putting it back in the fire? You want to keep it hot. Even if it's fully cooked, we see that you're concerned that it should be hot. There's a chash, b'shas you come back to put it on, it'll give a little stoke to the coals to mechat.
So you wouldn't be able to put.
So the Garuf Ktuma will remind you, don't do that.
So they know how to put a blech on after. Because in that whole shash, the whole what you're trying to avoid, you might forget. This might come to stoke the fire.
As long as you don't put the kedera on. Yeah, the kedera has to be on, but the blech has to be before you put the kedera down.
But you could say that you're going to mix the fire. When I took it off, you might say I'm coming to mix the fire before I put it back.
No, not if you took it off. Let's say you put on Erev Shabbos, or sitting on top of the stove without a blech.
Right. And you want to take it off and
Put the blech. L'chora, you could do it, yeah.
What happens if I have a big blech? I have only one fire.
By the way, the Shabrura doesn't learn that way. He learns like the Ran, which the Alter Rebbe also, the big machlokes in Yishayim. The Ran held that everything is only, once it comes to Chazara, you're over with Erev Shabbos, there's no more Shashim Yichat. It's all because of Neder Kimavashal. The Alter Rebbe says he agrees, he takes that for everything besides for Grufa Ketum. That one he changed. The Igli Tal, the Sachet Shavar Rebbe, the Abal Avinezer, he said he was a son of the Kotzker Rebbe. He said, Niflesi al Harav Mili Adi. I'm appelled by me and the Rav Mili Adi. The Rebbe lived in Liadi later in life, the last 15, 16 years. So he said, last 12 years. So he said, what is he writing this? It's look in the Ran. It says it's Mitzad Neder Kimavashal. He goes to find Makoidis, where did the Alter Rebbe get this from? And then Mishabunu Taka says, no, it's Mitzad Neder Kimavashal. The reason why you need a blech, Shemi Yichat is no chash, it's fully cooked. Chash is Neder Kimavashal. Let's take a look inside Sif Tezvav. A tanner. You do have some inferences of blech already in the times of Chazal. There is such inferences. But it's not the regular. It talks about what happens if you wake up in the morning, you see your cholent's burning. What should you do? So you want to minimize the heat. So what the Shulchan Aruch says, it's based on the one of the Rishonim, that you should take a kedera, flip over an empty pot, put it on top of the fire, and put this on top of it. This way, you diminish the heat. So it won't be so hot, so it won't be burning the bottom, it won't be burning. So from there you see that putting a metal sheet, it's like a blech. It's like a blech. But it doesn't say that in the Iker Halachis by Garuf Akot. Akadekach, that it led, that the Chazon Ish, I think, held that it won't work for a Shehiyah blech. He wanted to tie it as a problem that blech doesn't really change the fire, just separates the fire. For the fire is the same exact fire. When you sprinkle the ash on it, ketuma, the fire actually becomes diminished. So he wants to say this chiddush that you're allowed in the morning to put the blech on is only in the morning where you could do the blech, but in the evening you wouldn't be allowed to do blech. So it could be the Chazon Ishniks and Bnei Brak are not using a blech Friday night because
the morning, evening, wasn't it? I mean, for the next day.
The whole Martzchai, the Rishon who says the Mashma Boiker is in the morning. In the morning, when it's for sure fully cooked, whatever it is, there you could use the blech.
Everybody put the
But Friday night, who says you're allowed to use the blech? You didn't do anything in the gufeish. Ma'aseh the oilam is not makabel. Not makabel this chiddush. The oilam holds that you could use a blech.
Yeah, but they have a blech, not fire, electric. You just take it.
A plate, a heat plate.
A heat plate. Let's start with this.
Hot plate.
Yeah.
Plate.
Are you allowed to take out from the kedera and put it down and put it back? It's not direct from the fire.
So, by the way, I want to tell you something important to know. Anything which doesn't have dials on it doesn't need to have a blech. Because there's no chash shemi yichata. The whole chash of of Gruf
gonna
from
make
Tuma,
it
according to
harder.
the Alter Rebbe.
Here is the same,
According to the Alter Rebbe,
right, here is the same
is because it's Shemichata. If you have no ability to turn up the fire, for example, some urns, there are many urns that have no dials. It's just a plug in, plug out, or on and off. There's no high, low, medium. Some of them have a dial, but the other ones, there's no problem. You don't have any shash on Erev Shabbos. You have no shash shehiyah. No problem. You can put it right before Shabbos, even if it's not Meichel Desoi, and there's no blech. You know why? There's no shash mechat. It's not shaychus to be mechata. Ain't shaychut. Some of these hot plates are like that. Some of these hot plates, you just plug it in.
That's it.
One temperature, yeah.
So then,
If they do have knobs, I was told this morning by someone that I was giving a ride to that that you've got to cover them. You have to make sure that you can't adjust them, but you can use them.
Some of the good to hear you, but some of the hot plates don't have any dials. They're either on or off, or not, or just plug in, plug out. So there's no way to adjust the heat level. It's a one setting. You're right. If there's a dial that has low, medium, like you have in the slow cookers and things like that, you have dials, then yes, it's a problem. You need to deal with the shasha miyichata by one of the methods, either having a blech or putting it up when the Meichel Desoi before Shabbos. However, if there's no dials, this whole shasha erev Shabbos doesn't exist. It's all over.
And the electric,
because there's no shash to do anything with it.
There's no fire at all, you know.
Okay, there's something underneath. Must be some fire in there.
No, it's like a round metal, and you get red.
No, that's fire. That's red hot.
That's how they cook. They don't have actually fire.
It's not maybe a flame, but it's fire.
So they have to put the blech also.
Yeah. It's flaming, really hot. Sift Vav. Taner shesiku afilu bekash bekaflo. An oven which is heated up even with straw, which is very weak type of fire material. Vafilu garvakotim, even and not only you use this type of material, you even shoveled it out and you coated it with ash. Shehisha olav api echamidarke hetish is balamayla, which you were put on, you were masha on it according to one of the permissible ways on Erev Shabbos. Aser lahachzir loy kagdeda b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to return the pat on the Shabbos. Af api sha'oid b'yadei v'ydaita lachzira afilo mistamak goraloi. Why can't you? I held my hand on it. I had in mind to put it back. The food is so cooked. If you leave it further on, it's raloi. Vuad in the kupach, the same thing is for the kupach oven. Shesiku begef is the eitzim. Why in these cases is it problematic? Since these are hotter ovens than the kira, hotter than the regular ovens, the tan and the kupach. Shedinam kekira shehuska begef is eitzim ve'ena grufuktim. We treat them as if they are on a level of gefes, the eitzim, and it's not got for cotton. She'aser lahachzel b'Shabbos b'chol inyan shema yichata b'gechalim.
Which siman is that?
Simulation on Gimel.
Said it was garbage.
Sift Vav.
I already took out the fire.
Huh?
The Shofar says, I feel who gar forgotten.
He's saying that the oven that's very, very hot, even if it's got for katum, but we're still not allowed to do chazara on it because it's compared to a kira that had gevetz eitzim and it's not got for katum. It is got for katum, but we compare it
like if it's not.
As if it's not. She'asr lahachzil b'Shabbos b'cholin. Now, why is it asr to put on it? Here we see the Alter Rebbe's chiddush that to put on something even since it's not got for katum, since we treat it not got for katum,
You scared
So
maybe.
we're scared Shemichat b'kolam. And here's the key words. Even though Erev Shabbos, if something is Mistam V'Karali, there's no shita that's chayish that you're going to stoke the fire. Kol mokim in chazara v'Shabbos atzmei hichmiri yoyser. Chazal were more machmer to chash shemichata on Shabbos itself, and you must have grufa in tumah. Now, all this in Sifta Zayin, he says that only when you put the kedera on the top. Kedera built in Ksas l'mayadeh. You have to remember the way it was made those days. This was a kira. Kira had two openings on the top. You had a door here, and you put the fire in over here, close the door, and you had two openings on the top. And you put a pot here and a pot here. And the pot didn't sit on top like we have on a tripod.
It was inside.
The pot sat in the bottom of the pot was in the hole, in the hollow of the oven. Just the top of it was made wider. It was like the top, those pots that in the bottom it was a little thinner.
So that would hold it.
And the top was wider and it had handles, and that would hold it, stay on the top, and the bottom would be inside the hot oven. So that's where you have this heter, to do chazara, to put over here. However, to open over here and do chazara and put the pot inside here, toy chakira, no. Alachzira l'toy chakira mamish. V'hu adin l'toy chatanum shalano, as well as our ovens, also b'cholin, and avapishos b'kasha gava, v'nigrufu v'niktumo, v'oyisa kedera, oyta b'yadi, v'ydaita. So you have all these conditions. It's still a problem. What's the problem? He does not say clearly what the problem is. He's not masber clearly what the issue is. It seems to be that the issue is because it's nira kimavashal. Because putting it now on a much hotter heat inside, you're, instead of just putting it on the top, you're choosing to go and open it up and put it all the way in there. Looks much more like an act of cooking than just leaving it on the top.
If nobody in the house, only
My nira kimavashal. Once Chazal were geyser, you can say now yes and now not. Now, however, Poiskes Manenu say most of them hold this does not apply anymore today. To our ovens. Because remember, those days, the when you put it inside, or whether you put it on top, al gaba or b'soicha, which the Gemara is the one that gives this clarification. Amar Chalba, Amar Guria, lo yishano ella al gaba of b'toicha, lo you're allowed to put it inside when you're machzer on Shabbos. Erev Shabbos, you're allowed to leave it in. You leave your chicken in, the kugel, in the and inside. On Shabbos to put it in, the Gemara says, and halach is you're not allowed. But that wasn't those ovens. Why? They were all using the same fire. Stove top and inside were using the same fire. So if I cook over here and then I move the pot to inside, I'm showing that I want like a higher level heat. That's what I want. I want to cook it quicker and higher level heat. So that's more of a chash of nira kimavashal. However, our ovens, it's not one fire. Our stovetop and our inside and our oven have no connection with one another. They have two different gas pipes from the gas line. They're each getting gas, and there's a fire, and the fire, even one is broken, the other one works fine. There's nothing to do one with another. For convenience purposes, they've created a double one function. You have a on top and a bottom, but there's no connection between the two. They're independent. I had it recently. My oven was broken, but the stovetop was fine. There's no connection with one another. So because of this, my fact that I'm putting something in the oven doesn't show anymore that I'm interested in cooking it and putting it on the top. It's just two different forms of cooking. This is baking and this is cooking. It's not I'm trying to get more heat and get it quicker. It might cook quicker on top of the on the stovetop. Stovetop might be quicker. It's directly to the fire. It's touching it. It's more direct. So the whole svara today, most poiskes manenu hold that this din does not apply to our ovens today. This din that by chazara's kedera b'Shabbos, you're not allowed to put b'soich hakira, only al gabe hakira, doesn't apply to it.
But by the way, here in Century Village, they have no gas, only electric. So it's not the exact same thing.
It sounds like it's in a different century.
No.
Florida,
Safety.
Baruch Hashem.
Even the hot water, the warm the house, the hot water, it's electric.
Electric, everything's electric.
Everything's electric.
Now, David, if you ever want a little gas, come over back to New York. You're welcome to come to my house.
Do I have to fix the oven first? By the way, this is the first time that I'm using the Rav Shulchan Aruch. I have that on my lap.
Baruch Hashem.
Oh, Baruch Hashem. By the way, if you go to sie.org, sichusinenglish.org, yeah, and go to their library, you have a lot of the Svarim available online for free. You
Wow.
have all the Alter Rebbe Shulchan
In
Aruch,
English.
the English
In English,
set,
though.
which is very nice, the graphics and design, you have it right there
Yeah, pictures.
online. You can just click which simon you want. It has all the topics there.
The pictures.
Anytime on the computer.
Sichus in English Library.
Yes,
Fantastic.
sie.org, sichusinenglish.org, and go to library in the tab. There's a tab called library. You have
Mhm.
plenty of svarim there, maybe all their svarim that are free, and you have the whole set in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan
It's in
Aruch.
English, I'm high.
That's in English, and
Wow.
you have the Hebrew with the Nekudas and the English. It's really a nice print.
By the way, also, other than not Hasidus, but Safaria has a huge
Right?
library.
Yeah. Svaria, yeah.
Yeah,
Baruch Hashem, no excuses today. We have to learn.
none.
You got to learn it by sight.
The computer has a lot of info inside.
The computer is definitely doing a lot of learning. Now we have to get into our brains. We have to bring it into our cup.
There is a.
I have a huge,
Download it.
I have a huge library, by the way.
What is it called?
What?
Has it. 500,000 sporen in his, what is it called? No?
The parents, are we going to have a minyan tonight? So let's learn a little bit more. Hopefully we're going to have a minyan. Sifyud Zayin, Oisin Kiddush Eilan Toich V'Cholol. Those ovens that did not have it inside, a hollow, cholol. Alei pshutes. They're flat. V'toichem agavan echod. Mutal hasan. You're allowed to return to it in Shabbos.
What's such a thing? That's definitely.
I don't know exactly the mitzvahs.
There's a picture.
I always
there's a
struggled
book,
with
there's a
it.
book with Lamed Malachas, and over there they give you a seal
You have
of
to
the
see,
oven they're talking like
We
the
have to
top
see if
oven,
it's
the
correct.
bottom
Correct.
oven.
I have to see it's correct. I don't know.
I saw this one.
I'm just not sure.
Like a stove top?
Seems like a stovetop. That's what it seems to me.
There's no way where you're gonna echot it
You know, I just don't understand the lashon teichem v'gaban echot. What does it mean? Teichem gaban echot. Just say it only has a gaban. I don't see why it says teichem gaban echot. That's verstehe ich nicht so viel.
There's no place where to put the
I don't remember
the
what the
pot
beer
inside. It's only gachalim and that's it. It's a hole like this, and you put the coals inside. There's no place where to put the pot inside, like the big oven. So the only thing you could put is on top.
Right.
Why would you even have your Vachata B'Chaim?
You're not scared. You're not.
No,
You're
you're allowed to be machzor with the conditions, but
with
in
the
Tezayin we
with-
said you're not allowed to put toich. He's letting you know this
With-
oven is not a problem with the issue of toich. All the other conditions you need to have.
Okay, that makes sense.
There's such a thing in nowadays?
No.
I don't think so.
all this oven that we're talking about here, there's no existence.
So why that?
Maybe
why-
barbecue grill.
Maybe in the Middle East.
Yes.
Maybe in Middle East they have.
Or the smoke meat, the one that you
smoker.
the smoker. Yeah, similar to smoker,
Yeah.
exactly.
You know, Chazal discussed that Redias HaPas, there was a way how they used to make pas then. And they would slap it on the
Yeah, it's got
You still today. If you go to the
Shrine.
no over here, what is it called?
Yeah,
The Jerusalem too. They have this oven. They take the dough and the guy stamp on the wall. That's how the lafa come out.
the right. Yishalayim, they're doing the
Also Olympic Peters.
Exactly. Yes. Special oven.
So they do it, and I always didn't understand. The Gemara talks about it's a chachma,
Yeah, he is.
and you want it in the chachma. You shouldn't fall off, and you should have to take it off nicely.
And you don't put your
And
hand. You
someone
put your
showed
hand
me
inside.
on Wikipedia online. You could see them doing the videos and people doing the tapat. I'm saying you say there's no kira. Maybe, I don't know, in the Middle East, they're still using it. In Afghanistan, I don't know what they're doing in these
No,
places.
in Yerushalayim, you can see it.
In Yerushalayim, no?
You can actually see it on a stove. What
I don't know
street
what they're
is
doing
it?
in these mountains over there. In these places.
I've seen it in Yerushalayim in a restaurant. You can see it. You can actually watch it.
exactly. Jerusalem too also.
I've
Okay, we're
seen
gonna have to
it.
take the shear to Olympic pita.
That's how it started, made them out to other places. Well, by Caesar Shrine, that's how
Maybe that's how they did. Yeah, they put it on the flat on the side of the oven.
yeah, that's what they had.
Yeah. Sif Yud Ches. Afilo agabe hakira. It's hope by the ending we'll have the minion. Afilo agabe hakira in heter l'kshavan basho meichim l'tzork. Even when you're putting it, when we allow you, Chazal allowed you put on top of the kira with the conditions of Chazara. It has to be fully cooked. Basho kotzarke. Even though it's still good, it's still the food is still more tasty as it sits on the fire. That's okay, as long as it's fully cooked. If a medayim is bashal kotzarke, that's a problem. Afishin is karan is bashal yoysim meichim l'soi. Also, achzire b'Shabbos min ha'Torah mipnei shugum b'vashal mamish. So he's letting you now know a bishul thing. You know, all these Tanei Chazar Mederabanan. But you got to make sure it's fully cooked. That's step one. Filam is bashal kotzarke, alo shekvan is sanan legamri, tap a page kufyutes, also lachziroi, b'chol inyan. You can not return it if it's fully cooked and it's, however, it's cooled down. And we're not even talking about if it's a liquid. Even if it's not a problem that it cooled off for bishul purposes. Everyone agrees if something is a dry item, it's fully cooked, even if it cools off, there's no problem at all bishul. She's barbara submission bishul. Mikol makim here al gabe akira also lachzira. Here the Alter Rebbe adds in another Tanai Chazara. The Gra argues on the Vilna Gaon, but the Alter Rebbe is based on the Magen Avram. The Alter Rebbe Magen Avram held this way. The Vilna Gaon did not learn like the Magen Avram shat. So he was choilik. Mishabrura took on the Vilna Gaon. The Alter Rebbe and Magen Avram hold that there's another Tanai Chazara. Kiven stan lagamri. If you take something off the fire, even though you had a schnitzlach on the fire when Shabbos came in. I took off the tray, the pot of schnitzels, and I want to go put it back on to keep it warmer. If it cooled off, it's no longer warm, even though you held onto it the whole time. You're dishing it out, and the rest of the schnitzels you want to go put back on the fire. But if it became cold, those schnitzels, even though they're dry, fully baked, there's no problem of bishul at all. There's another Tanai Chazar over here. If something cooled off totally, it doesn't look like a Chazar anymore. It's
mevashel again.
The kiva, not mevashel, it's nidik. The kiva should have done the gamri. But was shehi arishayin. Remember the whole Tanai Chazar is to keep him shechius, continuity. Says the Magen Avram Alter Rebbe, if something is cold, you mamish lost continuity. There's no issa deraisa here. It's fully dry, fully cooked. It could be cold, but it's another thing. Now, this is based on the Ramah. The Magen Avram understood the Ramah this way. The Ramah is adding in another Tanai Chazara. However, the Vilna Gaon didn't understand it that way. He understood it's only talking about by a liquid. It has to be warm, because a liquid we know yesh bishul acher bishul, but davar shenistanim, davar shenistanim. So if it's warm, there's no bishul. So it's a bishul shaila. But the Magen Avram understood that the Ramah meant to say to add something besides for bishul. That even a davar yavish, even if you held your hand onto it, you had a mind to return it, and you're going to put it back on top, al gabeya kira. If it cooled off in your hands, it's fully cool, you lost the whole hemshech. You can't say that this is being nimshech, a hemshech, when this thing is totally cooled off. The original effects of the bishul here are gone. It's not warm anymore. Therefore, they hold it has to be warm. It's not really a shaila, because usually things are still warm. You just took it off the fire, you're putting it back a minute or two later.
You serve the whole table by the time you're done the whole table.
right? You're holding it the whole time. It's not usually you take out what you need and you put it back right away. It's not punkt. And if you have a chalent of soup, it stays hot for a very, very long time. Unless you have a tiny pot.
Right.
It's gonna be warm.
Like you say, the guest came and took it off, and the owner came and said, "What you doing?" And went back on the floor, but he didn't have in mind to put it back. Yes.
Well, anyone gonna be joining us from Mariv?
I want to sit out the call on Friday night.
Rabbi Davis, Rabbi Sabge, you can join us. Come.
I'll answer. You need me to answer.
We're gonna have a Zoom meeting and a COVID meeting.
The cover, by mistake, you put the cover off.
I'll put a mask on. Nobody will recognize me.
Want to check the trunk, you took the cover off and you put it down. No, you can't take the cover and put it back on the pot.
You could take out the pot, put the cover on.
Fine, but
You can't put it on.
V'davar lach, you mean?
No, yes, visual, the double lock.
Right. Ein b'shach b'shul davar yav.
It can be heat. There's no, nothing's gonna.
It depends how you're reheating it. So if you want to put on top of a cholent pot, or top of a soup pot, or next to the fire, you're good. You're right. You want to put it on the fire, you have to have conditions of chazara. Since if the schnitzel cooled off totally, now it's cold, it's probably not the case. But if it cooled off, you would have a problem putting it back on the fire, according to the Alter Rebbe. Not because bishul, because it's cooled off. It's no longer a continuation of what was happening earlier. To put something directly on the fire on Shabbos, you need that. You need to.
I don't know, in my shul,